everyone, welcome to School of Scarlett. Today I have another video for you. So today's video is about how my last job nearly destroyed and even killed me. So I'm going to be talking about that here today, but before I begin, I want to thank everybody who commented on my last video. That seemed to be a very popular video, and I received quite a few emails from you around what your awakenings were and where the intensity is. And so it was clear to me that the intensity is really rising around people and their jobs and their careers. I also got quite a few emails around toxic work settings and toxic relationships. So I'll be talking about those things in the coming videos, and so stay tuned with me. If you're not subscribed yet, I encourage you to subscribe today. That way you'll get notifications and you'll be in tune with my next video that comes out. So in line with talking about not being in resonance with our careers anymore, I think I'll share what my last experience in the workplace was, because it was really the last and final straw for me, and I have not returned to, let's say, a 9-to-5 setting since that, and that's been a couple years now. So for me, the 9-to-5 setting never really resonated with me. The first time that I went to go work a 9-to-5 job, it really felt like my soul was just draining, and I really felt very uncomfortable with it. But I knew kind of what the pattern or the expectations of life are, that you go to college, you get this job, you start a family, and this and that. So I was kind of in that indoctrinated way of thinking, and so I went to college, I got the job and did all of those things, but it certainly never really resonated with me. I really moved a lot of different jobs. Over my whole career, I worked, let's say, in healthcare, I worked in mental health, I worked in the education system, and I worked in social work. And I would work a lot of, what people would consider very great jobs, but I would come up to these roadblocks that were really, really just not acceptable for me, very much like what a lot of people that emailed me felt. And I would actually listen to my intuition the majority of the time, and I would get myself out of those jobs. But a lot of times it took a little bit, because there was this kind of like internal shame of thinking, oh, I'm giving up on a job, or I'm being weak, or I'm not sticking by my responsibilities. And so there was this kind of internal shame, internal guilt that kept me there usually a lot longer than I would have liked to be. And so I also noticed that that was kind of something that a lot of my viewers and people that had sent me emails also were describing. So I want to talk about that here today. So my last job was no different. I worked in a serious mental health center, giving counseling to clients that had serious mental illness. We're talking schizophrenia, we're talking bipolar, we're talking episodes of psychosis, that sort of mental illness. And prior to that, I had worked in mental health, counseling people with, things like depression, anxiety, family issues, parenting, that sort of thing. So I had been familiar with that, but this was a little bit different. And it kind of was at a more intensified level because the clients needed a different level of care. So when there was behaviors or issues come out, they were a lot more intensified. So I'll get to that, because it really did intensify to the point that my safety was really, really at risk there. So before, my safety was that much at risk, I'll tell you that my intuition was already speaking to me. And this will happen when you're at a place that you're not aligned with. Your intuition will speak to you through your body. You'll first feel like you don't want to go to work. Then you'll start to feel like, that you don't like something that's happening there. Next, it'll kind of manifest into even physical things. You'll begin to get sick and not be able to go to work, or you'll begin to feel anxious and you'll want to take a mental health day. Or, your eating patterns or even your bowel movements, I noticed, would change. For me, it was like my body went out of whack. So your body, first your intuition, you'll hear a nudge in your heart, letting you know that this is not the place for you. This doesn't feel good to the body. This doesn't feel good to your spirit. And so first there'll just be like a little nudge like that. But if you don't listen to that nudge will then manifest itself into physical ailments. Like I say, suddenly I wasn't sleeping well. And this wasn't the first job this has happened. Every job that, I wasn't in alignment with, this happened. So it'll manifest itself in sleeping issues, stomach issues, whatever it is. So comment down below if this is resonating with you. Give me a thumbs up if it resonates with you. So the cost of misalignment with, your intuition and the job is pretty high. It will really manifest itself in your body. So what ended up happening to me is I ignored all of those things. And at some point, I did talk to my supervisor about my concerns there. And there was quite a bit of concerns, not just for myself, but for the clients. There wasn't the level of care for them that was appropriate. And because I don't work at these places anymore, I'm really considering making a series of talking about some of the things that happen behind the scenes at mental health centers, at education centers, all of these places, healthcare centers. The things that I saw working at these places, I don't believe a lot of people are aware of or know, but there is a very, very dirty side to pretty much all of these industries, and they're very hush-hush about it. They even make you sign documents where you're not to speak about this on social media, you're not to speak of this with anyone. But since I don't have that muzzle on me anymore and I don't work or intend to work at these places, I am thinking about really sharing with you some of these things that happen, because I know that I'm not the only one. After reading your emails and really, seeing what you're going through, it really gave me the kind of encouragement to be able to share with you a little bit more openly some of those things that I had been a witness to and what I did to get out of it. So authenticity and your safety really go hand in hand. When you begin to feel unsafe at a workplace, it's because you're not in line with your authenticity. There's something that you're not being honest with yourself about. At some point, those intuitions turn into you totally betraying yourself. And for my job, my last job, that really became evident, because I really was meeting with clients in an unsafe setting that really felt unsafe. My body literally felt unsafe. It felt as if I was going to be attacked at any moment. Although I wanted to help these clients, I was seeing clients that were literally seeing things. They were in psychosis. They were having schizophrenic episodes right in front of me. I'd be talking to them and they'd be like looking and talking to other things. They'd be calling me other names. They would even ask to say that they had basically visions and things that they were going to hurt me and that they were going to end up in jail. And so all of these delusions were happening, and I had only one weapon in front of me, or one option or recourse with them, which was CBT therapy. Now, cognitive behavioral therapy is not going to do a whole lot for someone with serious mental health issues, and I'll tell you that. But this is the only method that this particular place that I worked at offered these clients. So it became very, very unsafe, and so unsafe that one of the clients that made me feel the most unsafe actually crossed those boundaries one time. And in that time, he sexually abused me right in front of everybody. And the front desk lady, everybody was aware of this. And I went ahead and reported it, went to HR and all of these things, and there wasn't really any support there. The only thing that they could say was that they could offer me to move to working with children. And they didn't, install cameras. They didn't, offer me therapy for my own issues that, for having to deal with that. This particular client worked in the same community and city that I lived in. He also knew my vehicle. There was no safety in place for me or anything like that. So my safety was now at risk, and my authenticity began to kind of feel kind of like it was just crumbling. Like I had to basically take it, right? And there was nothing to protect my own being at that point. I just had to take it. I had to accept that this person had a mental illness and use that, take that as an excuse for this person and just continue on my life. Well, I went ahead and I continued on. I didn't want to switch my position, but I stopped working with that particular client. So I really went against my authenticity, went against my intuition and those nudges within, and I continued to work there. The next thing that happened was that I was working with a young woman, called me to the front. Next thing I know, they pulls out this shotgun and she starts going like that with it everywhere in the office, saying that she was going to shoot me, that to basically pay for it. And so what happened? They basically escorted her out. They didn't call the police. This didn't end up on the news. This didn't end up with any kind of recourse against this woman. And again, this person lived in the same community, in the same town that I lived in. And as a matter of fact, after a couple months, I saw this woman at my daughter's football game. So she's a cheerleader, so I saw her there. And so there was no safety or recourse for this situation like you would think. You know, you see all these things on the news and you think all this stuff ends up with, you know, some justice. But no, I was told that this person just had a mental health issue and that I needed to accept that and move on from it. And that's when I had enough. I went and talked to HR and I knew that in that second I had to go. So at some point, even if you ignore your intuition, even if your body's telling you all these things, even if at some point, you know, these incidents happen, your body eventually, or your strongest intuition, your highest self will come in and say, it's time to go, run. And so when you have that feeling that it's time to go, it's time to run, it's time to go. And so when I felt that, I instantly went and I put in my resignation. My supervisor wasn't there at the time, and so I had to go to the office and put in my resignation. I told them exactly what had happened, and all they did was document it. There was nothing that happened to any of these people that, you know, crossed my boundaries or, you know, created the unsafety there. So I just want to make this message because some of you who emailed me are clearly in some unsafe work situations, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, you're in an unsafe work situation. And if you find yourself in unsafety, whether that's for your physical being or your mental health or your physical health, it's time to leave. So if you need a nudge, if you need someone to give you permission to leave, I'm confirming that for you here and now. It's time to go. If your safety is at risk, do not stay in a workplace, an environment that no longer is serving you in any kind of way. And I'm not just talking about wages here. I'm talking about internally. You're feeling in a way that is unsafe for you. It's time to go. Most of the times we think it's weak to leave, that it's a weak thing. It's not a weak thing to leave. It's a strong thing to leave. For you to say goodbye, to end a chapter, to move on from something is actually being strong. It's being in alignment with who you are. When you're in misalignment to who you are, that's when you end up sick. That's when you end up hurt. So it's time to get into alignment. It's time to be strong, and it's not weak to leave. Don't worry about what your friends or family might think. Do what is right for you. Don't worry about the world and their expectations. It's strong for you to listen to your own heart and move forward. There will always be another job. There will always be another opportunity, and I know that for a fact. After I left my job, I began working for myself, which has always been my own dream, and it manifested slowly, but it manifested. And even if you have to leave that job and take a part-time job, or maybe a job that you wouldn't have thought, but maybe it's, you know, less stress. Maybe you're in a very high stress job and you're ready to leave it. Leave it. And if you have to go work, let's say at a coffee shop, that is, you know, miles away, less stressful than having to endure the stress and pain of staying somewhere that is not in alignment to who you are. So I encourage you today to listen to your inner voice, to take the steps it takes to leave any situation, whether it's a job, whether it's a relationship, whether it's whatever. Listen to your inner self and take the steps needed. So if this message resonated with you, give me a thumbs up. Okay, so usually I sometimes feel like something's coming through and something is just coming through. It's basically like a flame, and I have the image in my mind of a flame, and I have I used to have this little flame snuffer, and it was just like this little old-fashioned metal brass thing you put over the flame. And I'm seeing the flame, and I think that what this flame is symbolizing to us is basically if we're staying somewhere, we are the flame, we're the light. So we're that flame. And if we're staying somewhere that no longer resonates with us, is hurting us, is taking away our authenticity, is, you know, becoming an unsafe environment, what ends up happening is that flame is being slowly snuffed out. Just like when you put that brass flame snuffer on it, it's being snuffed. And eventually what happens? That flame is extinguished. So we don't want that flame to be extinguished. We want your light here on this earth. We want to see you flourish. I want to be here. I want to flourish. I don't want my flame to be snuffed out either. So let's stand together. Let's move forward and choosing, going into our authentic self and choosing what is right for us and moving in that direction. So I encourage you today to do that. If this message resonated with you, give me a thumbs up, a heart, comment down below if you have experienced anything like this. And that way others can kind of know that they're not alone, because I know that in just sharing a little bit about like how I felt like I was going through other awakenings in my last video, it really opened the door for others to email me and share their experiences, which has now opened the door to me sharing a little bit more about why I left my previous job. So thank you so much for being here. If you're new here, I encourage you to subscribe. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you on the next message. I love you all.